There is an attempt to capture the judiciary. And a captured judiciary will never be able to use the Constitution as an instrument of transformation. Because any captured member of the judiciary will simply be told or will know in advance when so and so are involved, I better know my place. Or when certain issues are involved, well, the decision is known in advance. So can't lose.
The National Prosecuting Authority has so far received 43.5 million rand through donations and sponsorships. The funds are coming in as the NPA is still reworking its policies to be consistent with National Treasury guidelines. We're now joined by Glenys Breitenbach, DA Member of Parliament, and Veronica Mente, EFF Member of Parliament. A very good afternoon to both our guests, and thank you very much for joining us. Perhaps let's just take a look at the document of the NPA in terms of I'll tell you now, I do beg your pardon. And so this is the annual report. And on page 7 of the annual report, it speaks of the strategic outcomes of the NPA for 2020 to 2025. And it speaks of increased feelings of safety and security for all South Africans, improved investor confidence in South Africa through high-impact prosecutions, and improved access to NPA services for all. And to achieve that, capacitating the NPA and ensuring that all regions and business units have the requisite specialist capacity is just but one of the perceived outcomes that will determine the success. Veronica, let's start with you, because there's been concerns that have been raised about the private funding of the NPA. The party's position?
Thank you very much for having us. We do not agree with private donations being given to the NPA. First and foremost, we ought to answer a question of what is the mandate of the NPA? And the mandate of the NPA is to ensure that justice and prosecution of crime is done without fear, without favor and prejudice. And then working with its partners within the law enforcement spectrum, they must solve these problems and prevent crime and provide justice to the victims. Now, how will you be providing justice to the victims if Veronica has given you R1 million in order for you to prosecute, and the same Veronica has been abusing women? Now you have to be prosecuting Veronica for abusing other citizens. It's not going to work. It's not going to be independent. Already, by providing you with the means of your office to function, I'm prejudicing you and I'm prejudicing the victims, and I'm making sure that everything you do, you are doing it at the back of your mind. You must understand who is feeding you. Like we say, the hand that feeds you, you can't bite it.
Veronica, Glenys speaks of transparency. How transparent has the process been in terms of knowing who donates and how much they donate and what their interest is?
The PFMA, in terms of Section 71, which governs how funds are flowing in departments within South Africa, states that Treasury must make regulations that are governing every fund in the aspect of donations. Now, what are the Treasury regulations that are guiding donations? The Treasury regulations that are guiding donations on Clause 21 are clear that all those donations must be declared. And any institution that receives a donation, it should declare it through the annual financial statements, which eventually find their way into their annual report, which we were reading from earlier on. Now, let's come to the identity of the people that are donating. There is even a choice that a person's identity may not be disclosed, provided that it goes through the public protector and the auditor general. And on those aspects, how do you then assess that this is a well-known gangster? How do you then assess that this is a person who in the near future has an interest that has to be defended by the NPA? You cannot do that, because law lives with us. And we cannot have fluidity when it comes to the donations, in particular for the NPA, because the NPA should always carry its independence. The NPA should always not be hindered by bearing in mind that which hand has ever fed me, who is supplying the resources for us to successfully run the offices of the operations in terms of the NPA. Therefore, the role of funding the NPA is the state. What we have to do as South Africans and as parliamentarians is appropriation of enough and sufficient funding for the NPA to run its office. It's not like a school in South Africa where anyone can donate and build a school. That is an institution that must carry out justice in the benefit of the people of South Africa. So how do we benefit as people of South Africa when a leader of ShopRite is donating 10 million rand and the very same leader of ShopRite is abusing ShopRite workers? How are we going to get successful prosecution for those people? It cannot be. Justice is going to be hindered. Justice is going to be compromised.
Dennis.
You spoke last week about an approach, maybe even an offer of 600 million rand, which you turned down. What details can you give us around that?
I think it's enough to say I wasn't approached directly. There was a middle person, backed highly, that I believe was coming to me innocently, and that's what makes it a bit challenging for me to disclose the details. It's enough to say it was an American billionaire who made an offer through a particular structure.
And what was the offer?
To modernize the courts. The offer as it was conveyed to me was, we've heard you say you do take 600 million rands to modernize the courts. We're willing to give you whatever amount we want. We want involved in whatever tender processes are to be embarked upon. You deal with the money as you please.
Somebody listening to that would say, that sounds like philanthropy. That sounds like benevolence.
Sure.
Why would you see it as capture? Because capture begins, and that's why you turned it down.
Why don't they go to the state, to Treasury, and give money there? Why should I be approached directly? Why should it even be a secret approach? It should be out in the open. They know structures that they release to us. That's where they must go. But if you come straight to me, it becomes very suspicious.
Your office has been burgled. It has been attacked. And it's one of those things, as far as I know, that matter is still not solved in terms of what happened there. Those things that is concerning.
It is, especially because of how the matter was handled. Initially, we were told that the computers had been located, they are with some business person, they will be brought back, and the person would be arrested. But only got to know via the media that the case was withdrawn. We were not formally informed. It was only when I had a meeting with the Minister of Police and complained that a formal letter came that they are no longer pursuing the case.
Thanks for tuning into AJMT, where we never stop entertaining and always leave you wanting more. Until next time, keep on watching and keep on smiling. Please like, subscribe and click on the notification bell.